Welcome, everyone. I am super excited to be here, and thank you for being here for an insightful accountant webinar. We're going to be talking about timesheets.com today, and this is a fresh choice in time tracking. So I am glad that all of you are here. I'm Sandy Leva. I am the founder of Accountants Accelerator, and we have on the line today Raya Wasser, who is a very long title, Senior Implementation Specialist and Pro Partner Program Manager with Timesheets.com. And she's got a ton of experience helping small businesses with their employer challenges. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. And Raya, I'm going to turn it straight over to you at this time. So I have
Okay,
just now clicked the button, and then you
great.
should see the button to get it turned over to your.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. I'm also excited to be here and thank you so much. And let's jump right into it. So, yes, this is me, and I'll just give a little explanation to those funky titles. Senior Implementation Specialist is the way we handle things at timesheets.com. We don't have salespeople, we have implementation specialists because we understand that everyone who comes to us is either signed up by themselves for a free trial or they've been referred by our trusted pro partners or other people who want to offer solutions to people. So therefore, our job is really just to create that oasis of time and space for people to be able to consider a new solution. And I think we all suffer from the same drastic lack of time to think. And so that's my favorite thing, is to just make an oasis for people to help them think. And yes, no, or maybe are all good answers. But my goal in life for every phone call with a new person is to help them get something off their to-do list. So that's how we do it. And Pro
Yay.
Partner, yeah, right. And Pro Partner Program is how we work with folks who have clients that they need help for in time or expense tracking with HR tools. And I'm the manager of that program. And that's why I'm here with you today. So here's our first polling question. Sandy, if you can go into that. I just want to know your main interest so that I focus our thoughts on that.
All right. So in this case, you can choose just one. So choose the one that's most important to you, and we'll give you a few seconds to answer. A little more than a few seconds, right? So why have you chosen to attend this webinar? All right. Who else wants to jump in on this polling question? Let's keep it open for about 5 more seconds. I think we've got the majority voting here. All right. So the results, more than half are curious about your service, Raya. And
Oh,
then 44% interested for myself or one of my clients need it. All right. Very
delightful.
good.
Okay,
So
so
back to you.
perfect. So first thing is, who are we? What do we do? Normal question we get. Timesheets.com was founded in 2004, so we're just over the 15-year mark. It's a kind of a typical story about some techie people in Silicon Valley that first started creating it to solve their own time tracking solutions. And now we have thousands of clients, and I'm always happy to say that they're 100% satisfied. The reason we know that is we don't have any contracts or long-term service agreements, and people can actually go month to month. So therefore, everybody who is with us wants to be with us. And as you all can probably imagine, that's a great way to work with clients. I guess if we would have to say, how do we differentiate ourselves from the hundreds of time tracking services out there? Customer success is really our focus. We're the friendly folks. And I always say to people, we have thousands of clients, but they only seem to have one thing in common. Nobody has the time or the patience or the energy to remember how to do this stuff. So that's where we come in to say, with digital, you could solve anything and do anything, but that doesn't mean people want to do it. And so that's why we're there to help them to not only get started, but to stay the course for the years that they're with us. At the bottom, you see a bunch of logos of all the different services that we work with. We are humble enough to understand that our time tracking, whether it's for payroll or billing or grant allocations or time and expenses, etc., it's not the end of the road. It has to go somewhere. So we work very hard with our clients to make sure that the next step, wherever it has to go, it goes. Now, today we're just going to take a quick peek at all of the various functions that we can fulfill, and I'm always happy to hear from anyone afterwards about particular situations with clients. Also, please jump in with Sandy, ask any questions you want. Happy to answer them immediately on the spot while you have it on your mind. So we obviously do time tracking from anywhere where there's an internet connection, whether it's on the computer or mobile phone. Tracking PTO is a hugely popular thing, especially now as everyone's getting ready for summer vacations. We get many calls a day with people who are saying, you know, they're driving me crazy. They don't know when their vacation is. I'm so tired of answering the questions. So we'll look at how we handle that. We have mileage and expense tracking with uploading receipts from the phone, which is very popular because it doesn't get lost in the pockets of people when they do their laundry. We have human resources tools that we'll take a peek at that are completely confidential. And we have our mobile access, of course, from phones, very popular, and lots of reporting capabilities. So people find it curious and want to know. I just thought you might be interested in the functionality of the use cases. So 90% of our clients are using the hourly lane, as I call it. It's like a two-lane highway. The green lane will be payroll and time off functions. And then 39% are using billable time for tracking functions. Of that 39%, a good 30% of them are also using payroll, and about 9 or 10% are just using billable time tracking. And then we have 40% of our clients using mileage and expenses. So these are just things to keep in mind as we go through the functionality. So just to make sure we're on the same track, Sandy, if you want to go ahead with the second question.
All right. And again, this is to choose just one. Choose the one that's most important to you, the main focus of your days. Jim commented on the previous polling question. He says, I'm interested for a client, my firm, and also curious about service and partnership opportunities. If you do have a question for Raya, please type in the question box and feel free to do that. I know that most of the questions will come while you're doing your demo, I think.
Yeah, no, that's good. But at least I know I'm answering someone's question and not just talking. So that's great. Thank you.
All right, we got 94% voted, so let's just see what the results are. 69% of the audience is bookkeeper accountant, busy keeping clients happy. 19% CPA working on growing their practice. 13% other. If you have an other, go ahead and type in the question box. Let me know what that is, and I'll call it out. Oh, Jim's already asking if it'll do scheduling. You may get to that, but anyway,
Yes.
back to you. You've got control now, Raya.
Okay, great. Jim, thank you for asking because I probably would have forgotten to show you the scheduling. So that's great. So first though, what happens is the minute somebody signs up for a free trial, their account gets signed up to one of our implementation specialists, including me. And what we actually do, believe it or not, is we call it the golden moments. We try within the first 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes to actually call the person right when they're completely in the middle of the company settings, because that's where people tend to get lost. And I would have to say that over 67% of the people who subscribe have taken advantage of working with us. Of course, we all have a knee-jerk reaction. It's like walking into a store and someone says, do you need help? And of course you say no. But in our case, we really try to immediately focus. And the question I always ask is, in a perfect world, how do you want this to work for you? What is the problem that needs solving most? And in 100% of the cases, people say, thank you so much for asking that. And so we focus on what they really wanted to do. And I usually say it's not like buying a car or a cup of coffee, something that people are aware of. Almost everybody that comes to us really doesn't know how they want to do it. They just know what they want to do. And as implement specialists, that's what we do. then we also do a rollout. We do the training, so you don't need to. So, in answer to the question about partnership, I guess one of the ways we're a little bit different is you don't have to get certified or know anything about it. We're happy to show you if you're interested, especially if you want to use it. We have so many CPAs that work with us, but we take care of the rollout, we take care of the training, and the transition is the most important part because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Mobile support also needs a lot of support because with so many devices out there and so many browsers and everything changing all the time, we do give extra support for mobile as well. And I'll tell you right now, the way our mobile works is a little bit different. It's just a mobile site. There's no app they have to upload. They don't have to use their data plan. It doesn't guzzle the battery. It doesn't run in the background. We do have GPS time tracking and other features, but it's very lightweight and the clients really say that they appreciate it. So
And
let's
Raya,
jump in. Hmm.
okay, you may be jumping in and you may be answering this, but Jim is asking specifically a mobile question about whether they can see time history on the mobile device. So as you go through that, you
Yeah.
might want to.
Okay, we're going to take a peek at that soon, Jim. So here is a dashboard. Okay, and let's just say for a moment that someone just signed up for a free trial. So the first thing we go through are the company settings, and I'll just show you a few highlights so you know. In the Features tab, this is where we talk over which features they need. So if they're only using it for payroll, great. If they're using it for billing and job costing, then we move into checking that off. Mileage and expenses, and depending on how many layers of information they need for billing and job costing, we can do up to 3 layers. And what I always say is let's adjust this so we don't get click fatigue, because digitally you can do almost anything now, but that doesn't mean people will do it. So what we try to do when we're helping people get set up is let's give you the most advanced from where you are now, solve your problems, but not make your staff crazy. We want them to say this is great. So this is where we adjust that. On the company page, I'm just going to show you one thing that's kind of interesting, which is that we have the ability to change a sign off. So one of the options that we have is for employees to sign off on their timesheets and submit it to their supervisor for approval. I would say less than 20% of our clients actually use that, but when they need it, it's great. And we have the ability to customize that text. So for example, very often for California clients, they want to put in something, I was offered my meal breaks. I have people who are doing grant tracking that want to put in specifics about the grant, DCAA compliance, a variety of things. So I just wanted to let you know that that's something that can be customized as well. On the hourly tab, this is where we set up everything so that our system is in sync with theirs. So I've set up this sample account to be running payroll every 2 weeks. And we go through the calendar, find out what's the first day of the first pay period of the month. This is where I ask them, how do you do payroll? Are you doing it in-house? Are you using a service? Are you working with your accountant? And so we incorporate that whole flow right from the first phone call of where the information has to go. In terms of overtime, this happens to be weekly. We are a California company, so we do lots and lots of daily overtime and fulfill all of the California requirements. We set the start of the work week, and then we go into the paid time off categories. And this is a really interesting part. This is where we offer, I think, the most support because first at this level, we set it up on the company level. Which features are you using and offering? And then on each employee level, we help them set up their accruals, their policies. It's surprising that a good number of people don't actually understand their policy or know it, or it's so antiquated and complicated. But we have someone on our staff that we call the accruals queen. So we all go to her for the very super, super complicated issues. But clients are very relieved that they don't have to figure out all of the balances and everything else by themselves. So keeping track of the balances is part of what we do. And then there's a bunch of optional settings, and I go through it with them. The main thing is that all of these defaults are set in such a way that we encourage them to let employees make changes on their timesheets for the simple reason that nothing will become part of their timesheet unless the supervisor authorizes it. So it comes to the supervisor as an alert that we'll look at, so they can either deny or allow it. But it keeps all the information in the system. So the goal is to get rid of all of those pieces of paper, phone calls, emails that are not documented, and give clients a very good documented, quantified compliance trail, because you never know what the future may bring. So this is basically all of the various features that are available on the hourly. On the project tab, usually the only thing we're setting up is whether or not they want a minimum time increment. On the expense tab, we're setting up a mileage default rate. I love it when clients write 58, because then I call them up and say, I'm coming to work for you immediately, unless you want to put in 0.58. And on the security tab, these are the features. Again, not everybody needs them, because in every entry in our system, there's already a very good audit trail, which we're going to look at, which gives the IP of the login, the clock in, the clock out, all the changes, who did what, when, and where. But we do have several options for additional security. So one of them is geolocation. This is from phones for clocking in and clocking out. It takes a map of the location, which they can then see on the employee's timesheet or create a report. So that's very popular for having offsite people who are supposed to be working in another place and they're not sure, et cetera. The IP address lockdown list will make sure that staff clock in and out from only the allowed addresses. So that, for example, is pretty popular with, let's say, medical offices that have multi-locations. The doc is not very often around. Staff may be moving around from location to location. So IP address lockdown makes sure that they're not at a local Dunkin' Donuts when they go on the clock, but they're rather where they're supposed to be working. And so, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there for a moment. Okay, so on data export, one of the things that's very popular is here we can set the email address for data, payroll data delivery. So when they close payroll, which is a function we do in the second call, the payroll close call, then we show them that they can just email it directly. So if you're doing payroll for your clients and you want them to just be able to click the button when they close payroll, this is where we put in your address. Or if it's paychecks, it would be the payroll specialist, et cetera, et cetera. I must say, though, that on the Pro Partner program, we go a step beyond this, though, because in that case, you have a free license yourself on any client account, and then you can access the information immediately. We don't want you to have to waste time or energy chasing people for information. In this area, you can also see we have a large number of compatibility reports, etc. And this is where we also help people set up their QuickBooks Desktop importer or their QuickBooks Online settings for the sync there. Now, by the time we finish the company settings, and if you have any questions about this, feel free to put them in. I'll just keep going until we hear a question. Then I take them into my account because I feel like it's important to show people how to turn off automatic emails or other things that might be our default but might annoy them. So for instance, an automatic log out, it's set for 20 minutes in the default, but I show them how to never log me out automatically because it could be very annoying if you're on the phone. And then we go down to the status report email. Again, this is usually set up for a weekly default, but as I've gone through to hear how they want their information, if I found out that they really don't need it, we change it to never. And I tell them it doesn't hurt our feelings. It's whatever's good for you. And then there's other functionality as well. There's a bunch of notifications. And again, depending on the use case that they're looking for, if they have new employees and they want to know exactly when they're clocking in and out, they can have that in email SMS. They can be notified it's the last day of the current payroll period, which is very popular for semi-monthly or monthly, and a variety of other alerts. My favorite one, though, is please do not contact me for unsolicited services or offers. It's a bit of a joke because we don't actually have any unsolicited services or offers, but in the recent GDPR phenomenon for privacy, we had to create this whole thing. So since we went through a lot of effort to do it, I always ask people, please check it off and then click save. Now, by the time we finish the company settings, then we move into setting up their payroll. So uh, let's say, for example, we're doing billable time. So if they want 3 levels of information, then customers is usually the client. And again, if it's a QuickBooks situation, then we immediately start with a QuickBooks expert phone call to make sure that the mapping goes the same way they have it set up so we don't have a problem down the line. So this is how we set up customers. And customers can be linked to projects. And I was actually just on the phone with the CPA a little while ago, and she was very relieved because they had the problem of too many drop-down menus for their staff. And because you can exactly allocate which staff is working on which customer, and also which customer has which projects, it really cuts down on the click fatigue. Projects is the next level down. And again, the nomenclature is generic. We say customers, projects, account codes. It could also be strawberry chocolate vanilla or 123. It's just the number of layers of information needed. And for the purposes of this demo, I left all 3 of them there. So these are projects that are associated with various clients, and we'll see how that works in just a moment. Then here are the account codes. And this is usually generic information. What's neat about account codes is that we can associate them for payroll, for billing and job costing, or for mileage and expense tracking. So for each different use, we can have different account codes. Now, in the case of an employee, let's take a look at, for instance, the way someone is set up. So I don't know if anyone else is, is a fanatic for Anne of Green Gables like I am. If you recognize the names, then you'll know. But we're going to go into Diana Barry. And this is how the employee setup looks. We generally encourage people to put in an email address because that way when they lose their password, they can reset it themselves. But they also have a 6-digit ID. Sometimes you have field staff that don't have emails, and they can use those as well. So at the employee level, we go to the Options tab. In general, we encourage people to not put in any confidential information that's not needed here, just to put in what they need. So typically, if it's syncing somewhere else, it'll be an employee ID. The date of hire is usually useful if they have an accruals issue that goes to that. A couple of the very popular things are, first of all, automatic lunch deductions. So we always ask people, tell me the day in the life of your hourly people. Is lunch paid or unpaid? And do you want them to clock in and out if it's not paid, or do you want an automatic deduction? So in this case, Diana is set up for an automatic deduction of 60 minutes if she works 5 hours. In general, I usually encourage people to make that even more, something like 7 hours, to make sure that it's really a full-time day before we take the lunch deduction. And this is where we do the wonderful accruals. So in terms of sick time accruals, we have all the variety. It can be by hours worked, by the year, by 2 weeks, by monthly, whatever it is. So we go through their policy, we set them up, we take the current accrual based on when they're starting with us and how much it is per year, talk about what happens at the end of the year. Is it use it or lose it? Or does it roll over? And if it rolls over, is there a cap, etc.? And this, I would say, is the area where people most appreciate the help. Then once we have the accruals set up for each user, and again, we do a lot of bulk loading for large customers, but if it's, 5, 10, 15 people, then we usually do it on an individual basis. And they'll go in and they'll say, well, Diana works for all of the clients, and she therefore needs access to all of the projects. We do have bill rates, cost rates, things that can be used. And then we go into the account codes and set which ones are relevant and which ones should be the default.
So, Raya, while you're on account codes, there's a couple questions that are I think might be relevant to that. I'm not real sure.
Okay,
But can we take a couple questions now? Would this
sure.
be a good time? All right. Jim is
Delightful.
asking, he asked it earlier, will it handle class codes? So, like, I'm thinking QuickBooks classes,
Mm-hmm.
how do they map? And then also, Wayne is also asking another mapping question related to QuickBooks. Can items be imported from QuickBooks to use as account codes? So maybe
Mm-hmm.
they might want to know, I don't know, How would you answer
Sure.
both of those?
Sure. So, first of all, in our support section, we do have some charts with the mapping of what goes where and where. In general, I would say yes to class, yes to items, but both to Jim and Wayne and to anyone who's ever experienced a funky QuickBooks setup, we don't take it for granted that everyone uses QuickBooks the same way. Sometimes we end up doing account codes with a colon to pull in this, to pull in that, but that's why we offer our fully complimentary QuickBooks experts. And I soon have a slide that will show you what that involves, but it's very thorough from the earliest stage, like the one of the clients I set up today, we decided right away to pull in a QuickBooks expert just to make sure that the items were being mapped the same way that she had it. And in terms of class, I mean, I had someone who had their payroll items in class. So, it just depends. And that's why we have a QuickBooks expert who works with them directly, make sure the mapping is correct and it flows properly and there's no errors, etc. We take them all the way through that. So I hope it answers the question. I guess the general answer is that we generally succeed with even the funkiest QuickBooks setup, but we do it on a case-by-case basis to make sure that it
Cool.
actually works.
Cool. All right. So, couple more. Can Raya show what a time entry looks like to employees on a mobile device?
Mm-hmm. So let's switch over to Diana, and this is her computer view, and now we're going to the mobile version. So this resizes to whatever device you're on. I'm on my laptop, so it's showing full screen. If you're on an iPad or a phone, whatever it is, it will resize automatically. So she's clocked in right now. So let's clock her out. That's all they have to do. They have an option to add notes. And if they add notes, they can save changes. And then let's say she just realized that she has an expense that she needs to log, so she can go into her expense entry and she can select a vendor. I don't know, let's say car rental, and put in the dollar amount, choose the client that she was working with, choose the project, and if you can see, it automatically went to just the projects that are relevant for that client. Choose whether it's reimbursable, company credit card. Now again, these are very flexible. This happens to be the way I set up this client. Put in any notes, traveled from Denver to wherever, browse to pick up the receipt, and save new record.
Okay. He would like to see what it's like to switch between clients throughout the day with timers. Do you have that?
Sure, absolutely. So let's go back to the desktop site. So on our project time tab, let's just run through it quickly in the overview. There's 3 ways to track their time on the billable side: time entry, timers, and week view. So time entry is just a basic time entry after the fact. So they would choose the number of hours. Let's say it was 7 hours. Let's say it was today. Let's say she was working with favorite client 2, and then the project is project 456, and it was phase 3. And Diana's saying, finally finished, and save new record. So that's a basic time entry. Timers is most popular for CPA firms and for anybody who's multitasking. Some people love them, some people don't, but generally anyone who's multitasking loves it. So you start your day, you start with a client. Let's say you're starting with client 3, and it might be, in this case, maybe you're doing a bank rec or whatever, there's obviously different drop-down menus for different functions, but let's say you're doing bank reconciliation on a monthly basis and you start your new timer. And then suddenly you realize you're missing one page of the bank rec, so you now choose a different client and start a different project. And when you start the new timer, the first one is paused automatically unless you want them to run concurrently. I did have a lawyer tell me that he lets them run concurrently because even if he's printing all their documents off the machine, he's still charging them. So now let's say Diana had a very busy morning and now she's Thank you for laughing,
Right?
Sandy,
That's
right?
got to be illegal, right? No, never
You
mind.
know, I'm not allowed to give opinions, but I did gulp once or twice. No, I mean, I understood what he was saying. It's true. You know, the machine was working. So Diana's had a really busy morning, so now she's going to go to lunch. She pauses her timers, and now she comes back from lunch and decides that she has enough information to go back to this one. And basically, that's how it goes through the day. Now, let's say she has time to start a different thing. So we're doing client 3 and whatever task is being chosen.
Okay, Jim just asked, when you use timers, where do you put a memo of what you did?
Okay. So I'm sorry, one second. Just need a little drink here. So when you, let's see, let's just restart this timer. Now, once I stop all timers, they're over here on week view. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Now I understand. I think Jim's question was, how do you put in the note as you're working? I apologize. I didn't understand. So let me just do that one more time. So start the timer. And here's the edit pencil for the notes. Notes go here.
Gotcha.
Save the
All
note.
right, and Danny is asking, what about integrations with QB Desktop?
Mm-hmm.
And I know it handles that, right? Danny, do you have a more
Yeah.
specific question? Because she basically, I think it's going to be relevant based on what she said, related to you're going to get that QB expert to do your personal custom mapping. Is that correct, Raya?
Yeah. I mean, in short form, the QuickBooks Desktop is, hold on, let me just go back to the administrator view. So, one second. Danny, let me just show you this real quick. Sorry, just fighting with the mouse here. So back to the data export, this is the QuickBooks Desktop importer. So basically it's a little zip file that has 2 little pieces of software. We walk you through how you download it, and then that is how our system connects to QuickBooks Desktop. And then once you have that installed, then that's when we have the QuickBooks expert call to make sure again that the mapping works exactly the way you want it.
Great.
Was that
Well, we're caught up on questions, so
okay?
fantastic job on the questions.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad I knew an answer. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you on projects is week view, and everybody loves week view. The reason everybody loves it is even people who are recalcitrant, they really don't want to get into tracking, but whether it's a nonprofit that has to allocate time to grants, or whether it's a CPA I was just on the phone with that really needs to know if the hours that she's paying out are justifying the profitability of the client, and be able to document that when she needs to change the contract with the client, whatever it is, WeekView is so easy. So if you're working on a bunch of things, this is WeekView. What people like is that you can work with your day going down to make sure what totals you have for the day make sense. And then whatever you're working on through the week, you have your totals on the right telling you to make sure it makes sense what you had for the right. So let's say today I just remembered that I did another half hour for my favorite client. So I just jump in here and put in the 30 minutes. All I have to do is save it because everything else is in there. I can add work notes here if I want to, and save new record. The very nice thing about week view is that you can also copy this week to next week. You can jump to last week. You can jump to next week. You can change the calendar of the week you want to look at. So it's just a very handy way for people to do it. And I would have to say, at least half of the people that are transitioning their staff to some kind of more serious tracking, um, at least half of them say that WeekView made the deal for them, that once the staff saw that they could do it this way, they were willing to do it. So even if they only do it once a week, some of them do it once a month, but at least they have something to work from that makes them feel like it's not an endless clicking project. Then what's very important about especially billable time or grant reporting time is that once that function is taken care of, if the client has been billed, then it's very important we train people how to archive project time, and then it moves to the archives tab. So what it means is the employees can still see what they've done, but they no longer have the edit pencils. They can no longer make changes. So that's how it works. So in this case, Diana has her hourly time. Um, she can clock in and out or use a time entry form. And in this case, this client is set up for a 10-minute break. So let's say she's going on her break. It will let her know that. And if we come back to the view on the company level, then we see that Diana is on her break. So the administrator or administrators, they can have as many as they want, can see who's on break. It will also show if they're on PTO, if they're on vacation, if they're on the clock, when they came on the clock. This is the 2-week biweekly pay period showing their total so far. These are their projects. It shows the timers, and if I wanted to see what timers they're working on, I just click here and it takes me to their timers and the mileage and expense tracking. So let's just stop a moment. Does anyone have a question about specific tracking?
So there are some questions coming through,
Mhm.
but they are different. I tell you,
Oh,
we've got a lot of advanced QuickBooks people on this call, Raya. Based
good.
on the questions, you want me to just spout them out, and then if you need to do
Sure.
research. All right.
Yeah.
So Leslie is asking on the import, and this is back for desktop. Does the
Mm-hmm.
imported information hit the timesheet in QBO and QBDT? Oh, I guess it's both for online and desktop. Does the imported information hit the timesheet that's inside QuickBooks?
The answer is yes. But Leslie, I'd like to get with you afterwards to get you a more specific answer because I'm always afraid of generic, a little bit, generic QuickBooks questions because it depends how the QuickBooks is set up and how many things you're trying to export or import at the same time.
And then Wayne is also asking about the IIF file from the exporter, if it's acceptable to the new IIF features in QuickBooks Desktop.
As far as I know, everything is up to date and working great. But again, in a perfect world, yes, everything is working great with the new IAF. But again, if you have a very specific question, or especially if you've seen an error that bothers you or that you've had trouble with, I would love to hear about it so we can get a more specific answer for you if that would be helpful.
Okay, and then Leslie's asking about approvals.
Okay, so let's go to that. So let's go back to Diana for a moment. Um, there's two kinds of approvals they can do. One of them is on her hourly time. So here we're going to sign selected records. So let's say it's the end of the pay period. You can click here to select the records. This red one here, by the way, Diana said that she had a sick day. We can look at the audit trail. So she said she was out on Monday, and just going to flip back over here to show you the alerts. So people who request sick or time off or have changes to their timesheet, it creates an alert. And there's two kinds of alerts. The top section is for people who had changes in their timesheet. So in this case, Gilbert said the black indicates what his time clock said was he was in, he took his break, and his clock was clocked out at 3:43. But he said he left at 3:30, and he said, I forgot to clock out. And test employee wanted to change from 155 to 154 because they forgot to clock out. So if I want to allow these, I go like this, allow selected, and we're good to go. The other option is to deny it and to go in that direction. And then the other section are the time off requests. So Diana had her sick day that she requested. She requested 8 hours. It showed that she had 32 available. And she's also asking for vacation next week. And this is her balance in the hours that she's asking for. So I'm going to go ahead and allow her. And now let's go back to her timesheet and refresh the screen so that she can sign off on her timesheet. So I'm going to choose all the records, click Sign Selected Records. This is the employee signature, and this is the one that I showed you can be customized if they want. It's electronic signature. She clicks OK. And now her entries have a green pencil, which means that she has signed them. Now she's going to notify her supervisor her timesheet is ready. And it will go to the direct supervisor depending on the hierarchy that's set up in the system. If anyone has questions, we can also look at how supervisors are set up with various permissions, etc. Ours works a little differently than other systems. And a notification was sent to Ann Shirley that your timesheet is ready for review. Now, if we go back to Ann Shirley, so timesheets being ready for review. Now, some clients do a two-step process where they approve the hourly time and then they close payroll. If it's a small company, they typically don't do layers of supervisor approvals and they would just close payroll. But let's how we would approve hourly time. So you choose the dates. In this case, I'm going to go back. It's a date range of up to a year, so I'm just going to take from May 1st till now. You can include everybody or uncheck it to just select who you need. Some cases we have clients who have some staff are weekly and some are monthly, so they can include different departments for different payroll periods. And in this case, you can do all the account codes or just some if you need it. You can do different time classifications, and you can group the report either by employee or by any which way you choose. For now, we're just going to leave it by employee and view the records to approve. Oops, sorry. So this is how it looks on the screen. So here's Diana. I can see that she signed off on these. One of them is already approved because that was her sick leave that was already approved. So basically someone can go through. If they have a question about anything, they can flip open the audit trail to see a note. And if they choose, they can select all or deselect all. So in this case, they're all selected, but if some of them don't look right to me, I can deselect and just select the ones that I want. For our purposes, we'll just do the whole shebang. And you come up here and approve the time shown below. Now, as long as we got this far, let's go ahead and close payroll and see how that works. So when we click on close payroll period, and typically this will be your clients who are doing it, unless you're doing it for your own firm. And the dates are preset, or you can do it for another time period if you want. Let's go ahead and look at the one that's preset. And if anything is strange or weird, they will get a alert. In this case, it's telling me that the dates overlap because I'm choosing the dates. Apparently this payroll has already been closed, which is why everyone is 0. So I'm going to change the report parameters. Coming back here, going to the next payroll period, and checking again. Sometimes there's an overlap in case someone has forgotten to clock out, etc. Now I'm looking along, and the way we read this is the green lane is just the total, but that's not what we pay from. Deductions, these are the lunch deductions for Diana. She had that 30 minutes. I think it was 30, right? But let's say I don't remember exactly. So I pop it open, and then I can see her full time card. I see her setup. This section here is used for people who are on by hours worked. It's much more complicated calculation. But I can look and I can say, okay, she had her lunch hour here and her lunch hour here, and everything makes sense to me. I can do that for any of the employees. So if I'm ready, I have a place for optional notes at the top. I usually encourage people to put things in, like if it was someone's last week or a new employee or a strange holiday that they had, anything that sometimes you're fumbling back through months or years of payrolls trying to find something. And when they're ready, save and close the payroll report. And the payroll reports page looks like this. All of the various payrolls that have been closed are here. Let's say I only have a problem for Diana and I need to make a change for her. So I can go over here and just choose Diana, and then all of the reports to the end of time will just show Diana's hours. And I can easily go through and find a change. I can reopen her hours, just fix her, and then put her back in the time period. So that's payroll. Now for timesheet, for her project time, same process for signing off. Oh, wow, I see your time is going here. And same thing, sign selected records, notify my supervisor, my timesheet is ready. I think one open question we had is about schedule, so let me just pop back. This is the main admin view. And scheduling, just a very quick look is here. We can select all users. And based on which calendars I want to see, I can see the payroll periods, I can see US holidays, I can see annual reviews. Basically, you just check what you want and update the view to see anything you want to see. I can schedule people. Let's say I want Gilbert to work on this day. I can put in a title for it, work off-site, spelled wrong, and save it. And it's pink because it's not yet published. But let's say I want Gilbert and Matthew and Rachel all to work off site that day. It's basically a drag and drop. You can publish it. You can copy weeks forward. You can view the month. You can view the week. You can view the day. So that's just a really brief one. But Jim, if you want to see more about schedules, just contact me. We can go into more detail.
All right, we do have more
Okay.
questions, Raya, but I know we're running. I want you to get through your material. So,
Yeah, let me just flip through a couple more things to make sure we cover it. So this again is the QuickBooks Experts. So this gives you a little detail of what goes on in the first meeting for the exact mapping, and first finding out exactly what information you want to bring in, what you need it for, and then doing the mapping. And then at the second meeting, confirming that everything's working as needed. And also, I just want to mention one thing I think we do a little differently is after activation, the kind of support we have. So we do a complete handoff specifically from the implement specialist to our customer support specialists, and we do it in a very orderly manner. We take lots of time to do it because we don't want people to feel like now that, I worked with them, everything is great, they got to know me, and now they're getting dumped. No, no, no. I work with the rest of the team. We're all in there all day long answering questions and helping people. So we also do proactive support. We reach out to them and make sure that they're doing well. In terms of our response times, it's sort of like a corporate game that we do, but in terms of chat, our goal is to answer people within 30 seconds, never more
oh
than a
wow.
minute. Yeah, yeah. And at our meetings once a month, we look at the stats and make sure, and everyone, it's could be very embarrassing if you have the longest response time, but that would be like a minute and 2 seconds or something. But yeah, it's less than 30 seconds typically. We try to answer the phone. We don't let it go to voicemail. We have a backup of backup of backup of who it rings through to. And if it does go to voicemail, we typically answer within 10 to 15 minutes. We call back. So we're really freaky about that, but we have a lot of fun with it, and that's the way we like to help people. And just thought you might want to see, this is a typical client review. I'm happy to say it's typical. It's from our Capterra reviews. I think this one is from last week. I thought it would be interesting because when he said, I especially wanted a program where my staff could post hours and then our accountants could log in and get the hours twice a month to process payroll without my involvement as the owner. So this is where we try to take our stand and make our mark. So, should we do this polling question, Sandy?
Yep. What's the most important attribute of a time tracking partner? Pick the most important one to you. Yeah, and you're gonna have some follow-up questions, I think.
Okay, my pleasure, my pleasure. We love
Some of the
questions.
same people are asking deeper and deeper questions. So,
Okay.
anybody else that hadn't asked a question yet want to ask a question? Maybe we'll have time for these at the very end. We'll see.
Okay. And it's always a pleasure to have a real conversation because I know that this is not always the best way to get answers. I'm always
All
happy to
right,
talk.
let's give you 5 more seconds. Let's jump on in and vote for those of you who want to. We only got a little half of you voted. So I don't know, maybe you don't know the most important attribute of time tracking, but 78% said easy transfer of data to payroll or accounting, and then 22% talked about features. All
Okay.
right, so back to
Okay.
you.
Okay. So I just wanted to share the 6 signals that we typically see that a client needs timesheets. So later incomplete timesheets I know can drive you crazy. So we're trying to create a situation where you don't have to wait around for that. Um, Inflated staffing costs. We have an ROI calculator on our site. It's really astonishing how much people waste just from the paper timesheets or Excel spreadsheets that people are estimated 10 minutes here and there. Lots of data there from the American Payroll Association. Uncertain employee location, this goes to the fact of where are they working, are they drinking coffee, or not that drinking coffee is a bad thing, I do it myself a lot. And careless expense reporting, losing the receipts, especially the company credit card. It's so nice to just be able to get that all in one place. And if they do it immediately, we always have a better chance of it being accurate. Time off discrepancies is a huge one. I don't know why, but we have found consistently that employees get much more upset about discrepancies in their paid time off than in the time they actually worked. So a vacation hour can cause a huge havoc, but if their work time is off by an hour, it doesn't cause the same emotional impact. And compliance risks is that unspoken monster that's out there. We really try to pay so much attention to that and to keep those audit trails to make sure that memos and all of that information is right in the system so that 3 years from now, John Doe comes back and says he didn't get paid overtime or this, that, and the other. All that information is there for them. So in terms of the Pro Partner Program, we love helping you. That's all I have to say. So hopefully as your client's advisor, if you want a place for them to have those time and expense tracking with the HR tools, um, we love to support you in being a trusted partner. And the best part is that you don't have to do any classes or certifications. You can know as much or as little as you want. We take care of the support. We act on your behalf. We are, in fact, your partner. And I think what people appreciate is having that free administrator license, so you don't have to get in an uncomfortable situation to ask your client to pay for you to have a license. That would not happen. You get it for free. And we pay a 20% commission in our Pro Partner program on your referred clients for 2 years, if you want it. I mean, some people want it, some people don't. And unlimited free support. And that comes from me as the Pro Partner program manager and all of our 5-star team. And for the clients, they appreciate that personalized setup support to find out exactly how to best meet their needs. Their free trial timing is suited to each of your clients. So if 14 days isn't enough, it's not a problem. We'll just work with them until they can make a decision. Certainly, I've never had a nonprofit who could make a decision in 14 days. We customize the training. We spend a lot of time creating a rollout that's a PDF that has screenshots from their own account so that they can easily walk through and transition the staff. And of course, ongoing free support always at every level for employees as well in English and Spanish, so you don't have to. Um, I do want to go back for 1 second. We didn't see the HR docs. So I'm just going to take a quick peek here. We'll go back into Diana. And this is a feature that not everybody realizes is here. It's a little free HR program. I call it HR in a box. So it has 3 components. The first one is the performance documents. So let's say they need to do a performance review. There's also discipline, incident, etc. It's a nice compliant form. Then, oops, hold on 1 second. Can't get to my
I know the
yeah.
GoToWebinar windows are in the way so
They're in the
much.
way, right? And this is the Notes tab. Now, again, this is completely confidential. So this is where if you gave someone equipment, allergic to peanuts, or just keeping notes on hand that you're going to use for a review or discussion. And the last one is the Files tab. This is my personal favorite. This is where people can upload all that stuff that tends to get lost in hard drives and file drawers. The W-4, the I-9, the application for employment, copy of the driver's license, any policies they signed off on. And everything that's uploaded is easily accessible from the dashboard. There's an HR tab. And in this case, there's no documents here, but where all these 0 links are, whatever documents were uploaded, they can just click here and a list of the documents will come up. So it's just another way that we really encourage compliance and do it in a way that's not difficult for them, and it's all built in. I also want to say that, I mentioned before that we can do month to month or yearly, but even if clients leave our service for whatever reason, we don't hold their information hostage. I think we're a little bit different that way. We actually encourage them to take a free account with just one administrator so that they always have access to their information. So if they decide to change the way they're doing things and don't want to work with us longer, they don't have to sit there for many hours or days printing out everything that ever happened.
Okay, and you may have just answered this, but let me go ahead and launch the poll. And then, all right. So Angela did ask earlier, do accounting professionals get a subscription to play with outside of a free trial?
Absolutely. First of all, free account forever, at least for a single user. And, whatever you need. The idea is we want you to have it, play with it, use it for real, or just use it when you want to show things to your clients or play around with things. That's good for all of us.
All right, very good. And I know we've got a couple more questions, but instead of getting into them, Raya, you will get a copy through Molly of the questions log as well as the attendee report. And then,
Mm-hmm.
Raya, you and your team can follow up as you need with these questions. So you guys, you will definitely get your questions answered
Lovely.
by the timesheets.com team.
Our
All
pleasure.
right. So we're
And
all set. Great. There's
And
your
just want
contact.
to say there's, yeah, the contact information, that's my direct line. Please reach out, phone or email, whatever you like. And that's the link for timesheets.com/pro partner, where you can take a look at the program. It's obviously free to sign up, and please, you're welcome to do that. When you sign up, you'll see you have a dashboard. There's a place on the left to click on Make a Referral. And part of the referral form is where you can give me a note to tell me how you want me to handle it, like Raya, please call them, or don't call them, or let's call them together, or this is what they need, etc. So we do it in a very personal basis, and I would love to be of service whichever way I can.
All right, fantastic. You're already getting kudos. Leslie says, very useful, great webinar. Thank you. It's a really great
Thank you,
demo.
Leslie.
A really great demo. All right. Thanks, everyone, for being on this webinar. Thank you, Raya, for your time.
My
And
pleasure.
we'll see you on the next webinar, everyone. Bye.